Imagine waking up one day and realizing that you've been living at only 40% of your true potential. That the limitations you've accepted are merely illusions created by your mind. This is the electrifying wake-up call at the heart of David Goggins' powerful memoir, Can't Hurt Me, a transformative journey from pain to unprecedented achievement through the power of mental fortitude and relentless discipline. David Goggins' extraordinary journey. David Goggins' life story begins in a place of profound darkness. Born into a household dominated by an abusive father, Goggins experienced trauma that would have permanently broken many others. The young David faced not just physical violence but also grinding poverty and vicious racism that painted his early years with struggle and suffering. His childhood was marked by constant fear, academic struggles due to learning disabilities, and a deep-seated insecurity that threatened to define his entire existence. Very few people know how the bottom feels, but I do, Goggins writes. It's like quicksand. It grabs you, sucks you under, and won't let go. When life is like that, it's easy to drift and continue to make the same comfortable choices that are killing you, over and over again. This vivid description captures the desperation that characterized his early life, a suffocating cycle of limited expectations and unfulfilled potential. After barely graduating high school, Goggins joined the Air Force, seeking structure and escape from his troubled past. However, even this period was marked by challenges and setbacks. Following his military service, he found himself working as a pest exterminator, overweight at nearly 300 pounds, and watching his life slip away in front of late-night television and comfort food. It was in this moment of profound dissatisfaction that Goggins experienced the first spark of transformation. The turning point came when Goggins, disgusted with his circumstances while cleaning a particularly filthy restaurant during his extermination job, decided that fundamental change was necessary. In that moment of clarity, he set his sights on becoming a Navy SEAL, one of the most elite and demanding military units in the world. This seemingly impossible goal would require him to lose over 100 pounds in just 3 months and overcome numerous physical and mental obstacles. What followed was one of the most remarkable transformations in contemporary personal development. Through sheer force of will and a newly discovered capacity for suffering, Goggins rebuilt himself from the ground up. He shed the weight, conquered the qualifying tests, and eventually succeeded in becoming not just a Navy SEAL, but the only individual to complete the elite training programs for SEALs, Army Rangers, and Air Force Tactical Air Controllers. This unprecedented achievement established him as one of the most mentally tough individuals in military history. Beyond his military accomplishments, Goggins went on to become an elite ultramarathon runner, setting records and competing in some of the world's most grueling endurance events. He transformed from someone who could barely run a mile to a world-class athlete who could run over 100 miles through punishing terrain. This metamorphosis wasn't the result of natural talent or favorable genetics, it was the product of a mindset revolution that forms the core teaching of his book. The philosophy of mental toughness. At the heart of Can't Hurt Me lies a powerful philosophy about human potential and the untapped capabilities we all possess. Goggins' central thesis is summarized in what he calls the 40% rule, the idea that most people only access about 40% of their true capabilities. When your mind starts telling you that you're exhausted, finished, and unable to go further, you've actually only reached the 40% marker of your true potential. This concept challenges the fundamental assumptions most people make about their limitations. According to Goggins, what we perceive as our maximum effort is merely the beginning of what we're truly capable of achieving. The remaining 60% remains untapped, accessible only to those willing to push beyond the mental barriers that hold most people back. Goggins illustrates this principle through countless examples from his own life, moments when every fiber of his being screamed for him to quit, but he chose to continue. During his third attempt at Navy SEAL training, with broken bones and a body pushed to its absolute limit, he found reserves of strength that conventional wisdom would deem impossible. During ultramarathons, with his feet blistered and bleeding, he discovered that pain was not a signal to stop but merely information to process while continuing forward. This philosophy is encapsulated in his quote, "Only you can master your mind," which is what it takes to live a bold life filled with accomplishments most people consider beyond their capability. For Goggins, mental mastery is not an abstract concept but a practical skill developed through consistent confrontation with discomfort and pain. The concept of the governor is another crucial element of Goggins' philosophy. He describes this as the limiting force in our minds that activates when we approach our perceived limits, urging us to stop, rest, or quit. This protective mechanism, while useful for basic survival, becomes the primary obstacle to extraordinary achievement. Goggins teaches that by consciously recognizing and overriding this governor, we can access deeper reserves of strength and endurance. Core principles and mental tools. Throughout Can't Hurt Me, Goggins introduces several practical mental tools that form the foundation of his transformation. These aren't merely theoretical concepts but battle-tested strategies that enabled his remarkable journey. The accountability mirror. One of the most powerful tools Goggins introduces is the accountability mirror. During his transformation, he began using his bathroom mirror as a physical reminder of his goals and brutally honest self-assessment. By writing his goals on sticky notes and placing them on the mirror, he created a daily confrontation with his aspirations and shortcomings. The power of this practice lies in its uncompromising honesty. Goggins argues that most people lie to themselves about their efforts and capabilities, creating a cushion of excuses that prevents true growth. The accountability mirror strips away these comforting lies, forcing a direct confrontation with the gap between your current reality and your desired outcomes. This practice extends beyond simple goal setting. It requires the courage to acknowledge personal failings, weaknesses, and areas where effort has been lacking. While uncomfortable, this radical honesty becomes the foundation for authentic change. Goggins credits this practice with creating the self-respect that made his transformation possible, writing, "By the time I graduated, I knew that the confidence I'd managed to develop didn't come from a perfect family or God-given talent. It came from personal accountability which brought me self-respect, and self-respect will always light a way forward." The cookie jar. Another powerful tool Goggins developed is the cookie jar, a mental repository of past accomplishments and overcome obstacles that serves as an emergency resource during moments of supreme challenge. In practical terms, this technique involves mentally cataloging your life's hardest-won victories and extracting them during moments of doubt or pain. When facing seemingly insurmountable challenges, Goggins would mentally reach into this cookie jar, pulling out memories of past triumphs to remind himself of his capacity for overcoming difficulty. The psychological power of this technique lies in its evidence-based approach to self-belief. Rather than relying on generic positive thinking, the cookie jar draws on concrete, personal examples of resilience. During his ultramarathons, when his body was failing and every step brought excruciating pain, Goggins would recall surviving SEAL training or overcoming childhood trauma, using these memories as fuel to keep moving forward. This technique transforms past suffering into a resource, giving purpose to difficult experiences and creating a positive feedback loop where each overcome obstacle strengthens the ability to face future challenges. Taking souls. Perhaps the most aggressive of Goggins' mental strategies is what he calls taking souls. This concept emerges from competitive contexts and centers on exceeding expectations so dramatically that you break the spirit or confidence of those with power over you. While initially applied in military training, exceeding his instructors' expectations so thoroughly that it demoralized them. Goggins expanded this concept to any situation involving perceived limitations or external doubts. The practice involves identifying someone who underestimates your capabilities, then performing so far beyond their expectations that it fundamentally alters their perception. This isn't about vindictiveness or competition with others so much as it is about using external doubt as motivational fuel. Goggins regularly converted the skepticism of others into driving energy for his accomplishments, proving doubters wrong not through argument but through undeniable results. For those facing discrimination, doubt, or low expectations, this technique offers a powerful reframing that transforms obstacles into opportunities for dramatic demonstration of capability. The pursuit of discomfort. Central to Goggins' philosophy is the deliberate pursuit of discomfort as the path to growth. Unlike most self-help approaches that focus on making personal development more accessible and comfortable, Goggins advocates for the opposite approach, seeking out difficulty as the most direct route to transformation. He developed a habit of deliberately doing what he didn't want to do, especially when he didn't want to do it. This might mean running in freezing rain when the comfortable option of staying inside was available, or adding additional miles to a workout when his body was already screaming for rest. The purpose wasn't masochism but rather the systematic expansion of his comfort zone. This approach creates a powerful counterpoint to conventional wisdom about habit formation. While most experts suggest making new habits easy and accessible to increase adherence, Goggins found that the very difficulty of his challenges created lasting change. By consistently choosing the more difficult path, he developed not just specific skills but a generalized capacity for enduring discomfort that transferred across domains. The psychological mechanism at work involves recalibrating your relationship with discomfort itself. What most people experience as unbearable, Goggins came to recognize as merely uncomfortable. What others see as impossibly difficult, he learned to view as challenging but achievable. This perspective shift fundamentally alters how obstacles are perceived and approached. Goggins extends this philosophy to recommend specific daily practices for building mental toughness. He advocates for identifying your current limitations and then systematically pushing just beyond them, day after day. This incremental approach creates a compounding effect where small daily victories lead to dramatic transformation over time. Critique and perspective, the balance question. While "Can't Hurt Me" presents a powerful philosophy of self-transformation, it's important to consider its approach in the broader context of personal development. Goggins' methods represent an extreme on the spectrum of self-improvement strategies, raising important questions about sustainability and application. Some readers and reviewers have noted that Goggins' approach lacks balance and may not be sustainable or healthy for everyone. His methods often push the boundaries of physical safety, with many of his achievements coming at the cost of significant injuries and health challenges. The harshness of his internal dialogue, while effective for him, might prove counterproductive for individuals with different psychological makeups. As one reviewer notes, "I don't recommend to most readers to be anger or pain-driven if they can instead go for better alternatives such as being driven by a willingness to build, complete a mission, or do good." This highlights an important distinction between being pushed by negative emotions versus being pulled by positive aspirations. Additionally, the extreme nature of Goggins' methods may yield diminishing returns due to basic principles of human physiology and psychology. There is substantial research supporting the importance of recovery, balance, and sustainable approaches to long-term achievement. As the review notes, "I wouldn't recommend going nearly as extreme as Goggins does because extremes are very costly, tend to be low ROI because of the law of diminishing returns, and are rarely the most effective ways to achieve goals." However, these critiques don't diminish the core value of Goggins' approach. Even if most readers won't apply his methods to the same extreme, the underlying principles of expanding comfort zones, taking radical accountability, and pushing beyond perceived limitations remain powerfully applicable across diverse contexts. Perhaps the most balanced perspective sees Goggins' approach not as a precise template to follow but as a dramatic demonstration of human potential that inspires reconsideration of self-imposed limitations. Even if readers adopt a more moderate version of his methods, the fundamental shift in perspective about what's possible can create transformative results. Practical applications beyond physical challenges. While much of "Can't Hurt Me" focuses on physical challenges like military training and endurance sports, Goggins' principles extend far beyond these domains. The mental toughness he developed proved applicable to every area of his life, suggesting broader applications for readers in diverse circumstances. For professionals facing career challenges, Goggins' approach offers a framework for pushing beyond perceived limitations. Rather than accepting conventional wisdom about what's possible in your field, his philosophy encourages questioning assumptions and setting goals beyond your current capabilities. The accountability mirror can be particularly effective for honest assessment of professional skills and shortcomings. For those facing personal adversity, whether health challenges, relationship difficulties, or financial setbacks, the cookie jar technique provides a method for drawing on past resilience. By cataloging previous obstacles overcome, you create a resource of proven personal strength that can sustain you through current difficulties. Students and learners can apply these principles to academic challenges, particularly in subjects or skills that seem initially beyond their capabilities. Rather than accepting initial performance as an indicator of potential, Goggins' approach suggests using current limitations as mere starting points for systematic improvement. Even in creative pursuits, where challenges are less quantifiable than in physical domains, the core principle of expanding comfort zones through deliberate discomfort can yield significant growth. Writers, artists, and musicians can apply this by deliberately working on their most challenging skills rather than staying within established strengths. The legacy of "Can't Hurt Me." Published in 2018, "Can't Hurt Me" quickly established itself as a distinctive voice in the personal development genre. Its unflinching honesty, rejection of comforting platitudes, and emphasis on embracing difficulty created a striking contrast to many contemporary self-help approaches that emphasize ease and accessibility. The book's impact stems partly from Goggins' extraordinary credibility. Unlike motivational speakers with primarily theoretical knowledge, Goggins' teachings emerge directly from one of the most remarkable personal transformations in recent memory. The gap between his starting point, an overweight, traumatized young man with learning disabilities, and his achievements, elite military operator and world-class athlete, lends uncommon weight to his philosophy. His approach has particularly resonated with individuals facing significant obstacles or starting from positions of disadvantage. By emphasizing that extraordinary achievement doesn't require favorable genetics, privileged circumstances, or natural talent, Goggins created an unusually democratic vision of human potential. His own transformation serves as vivid proof that factors typically considered deterministic can be overcome through sufficient will and consistent effort. Beyond specific techniques, perhaps the most enduring contribution of "Can't Hurt Me" is its challenge to comfortable assumptions about human limitations. In a culture increasingly oriented toward convenience and comfort, Goggins provides a powerful counter-narrative, that our greatest growth and fulfillment often lie precisely in the direction of greatest resistance. As he writes, "From the time you take your first breath, you become eligible to die. You also become eligible to find your greatness and become the one warrior. But it is up to you to equip yourself for the battle ahead." This framing of life as a battle for which we must deliberately prepare ourselves, rather than an experience to be merely enjoyed, offers a profound philosophical contrast to many contemporary approaches to well-being. Conclusion: the question of potential. "Can't Hurt Me" stands as both a remarkable personal story and a challenge to fundamental assumptions about human capability. Through his extraordinary journey from trauma and limitation to elite achievement, David Goggins demonstrates the vast reservoirs of untapped potential that exist within each of us. His core teachings, the 40% rule, the accountability mirror, the cookie jar, and the deliberate pursuit of discomfort, provide practical tools for those seeking to expand beyond their perceived limitations. While his extreme approach may not be appropriate for everyone in its full intensity, the underlying principles offer valuable insights applicable across diverse contexts and goals. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of Goggins' story is its emphasis on self-created transformation. Rather than attributing his success to external factors or inherent advantages, he demonstrates that extraordinary change can originate from within, through the systematic application of will and the embracing of necessary discomfort. As we reflect on Goggins' journey and philosophy, a question emerges that each reader must answer individually. If you have been operating at only 40% of your true capability, what might become possible if you began to access those untapped reserves? What achievements, currently dismissed as beyond your reach, might come within grasp through the application of these principles? And what version of yourself might emerge on the other side of embracing necessary discomfort rather than comfortable limitation?